You've just created your first AWS account and you're eager to start building. But hold your horses there for a second. There's a couple things that you need to do to ensure your account is secure, avoid a surprise bill, and make sure your environment is set up and ready to build. This video is going to walk you through 5 important tasks of things you need to do before you get started building. So let's get into it. All right, so my first tip for you is to understand what the AWS free tier actually means. I've been seeing so many people lately that have been ending up with surprise bills at the end of the month just because they don't understand the details of the free tier and kind of what's included and what's not included in this. So it turns out that there's 3 different elements of the free tier. So I want to explain each of these ones so that you can understand it from the get-go and you're not getting any surprise bills at the end of the month. Okay, so for the free tier, there's 3 different concepts. The first one is that you get 12 months free for a certain subset of AWS services. So you get to use and access and play with these AWS services for a total of 12 months from the day you created your AWS account to when those 12 months expire. So examples are 750 hours per month, which is basically a full month of EC2, T2, or T3 micro instance access. So these are really small baby instances that let you just tinker with AWS and play with EC2 and experiment with what EC2 has to offer. There's other examples as well. So you get 5 gigabytes of access or 5 gigabytes of storage to Amazon S3. You also get 1 million API gateway requests. There's a whole bunch of different AWS services that are included in this. And there's a very handy link, which I'll leave in the description section below, where you can see what all the different types of services that you can use and all the different settings that you can configure on them that all will stay within that free tier. Now, there are a couple of pitfalls that you should be aware of when using the free tier. The first one is that if you create a resource that is currently qualified within the free tier and then forget about it, and then 12 months go by, you'll start getting billed for that resource on the first day basically of when that 12 months expire. So it's important to, I would say, actually just set a reminder in your phone or in your calendar to say, this is the date I created my AWS account, and come back to it a couple days before that and make sure you don't have anything sitting there and running that's going to cost you anything extra. The other kind of trap that people fall into with this is that some services, although they're included in the free tier, and AWS does a pretty good job of making this obvious of like what's included in the free tier when you're creating the resource, but sometimes there's settings that you can specify that are not included in the free tier. So for example, something that burned me one time in the past was creating a RDS database for the first time. Included in that in the free tier is 20 gigabytes of storage as part of that instance, but for whatever reason I decided it was a good idea to raise that to 100, and the extra 80 gigabytes of storage there, I had to pay for that, and I didn't realize it till a couple days later. So make sure you understand what the settings that are included in that free tier are as well, so you don't go over any thresholds. All right, so that's the 12 months free that you have access to. The other component of this is this concept of free trials. And free trials are fixed duration trials that you get to use an AWS service for a specific time frame. So some things that stand out or some examples of this are Amazon Lightsail. So Amazon Lightsail is a compute service, so you can try Amazon Lightsail for 3 months, and basically you get access to just the baby plans or the initial starter plans. And so you can use the service for 3 months, and after those 3 months, you'll start getting charged for it. There's other examples as well. You can use Amazon Redshift for 2 months, and a couple other ones that you can read up on that same link that I'll put in the description. Again, this allows you to experiment with services that are typically a little bit more expensive, but within a fixed duration. And similar to the 12 months, if you're still using the service after that free trial period expires, you're going to start getting charged for that and see that on your monthly bill. So be aware, and again, set a calendar notification, or just remember to clean up your resource when you are done using it. All right, and the final category of the free tier is this notion of always free. So it's neat that AWS gives you access to resources up to a certain threshold that are always free, basically forever. So these are very common services as well that you'll probably be using, and there's a whole bunch of them. So for example, you can always get access to 1 million Lambda invocations, 1 million SNS publishes, and a DynamoDB table with less than 25 gigabytes of storage and less less than 25 read or write capacity units. It is entirely possible to build an entire application using the always free tier and basically be using AWS and not having to pay a dime and still having a pretty cool application out in production. So this can lower your costs if you're a heavy AWS user, but I guess the idea here is to give you a kind of teaser into what AWS can provide. And if you're kind of a more heavy user, you'll exceed this threshold and have to pay more. But it's great that AWS allows you to tinker with this stuff and play with it up to a certain limit. All right, so that is it for the free tier. Hopefully you understand what that means now and you're not gonna kind of shoot yourself in the foot and end up with a surprise bill. My second major tip for you is to ditch your root account and immediately set up a user account and enable multi-factor authentication or MFA. So for those of you that are new to AWS and don't understand what the root account is, the root account is the account that you get when you initially create your AWS account, and you'll know that you're using the root account because you're signing in with your email to access the console. Now, the root account is kind of a special AWS account. It's kind of the top level AWS account, and everything else is below that account. So all the user accounts are below it. And the root account has special permissions. The most important are that you're able to revoke access to any other AWS user. And the second one is that you get access to billing dashboards and billing details. You can also change the billing information as well. And the reason this is important is because if someone kind of gets access to one of your user accounts and maybe spawns up a whole bunch of AWS resources, you'll be able to quickly sign into your root account, delete that user, and just immediately stop the bleeding and have to deal with everything afterwards. So the root account is very, very important, but you should not be using it on your day-to-day. You shouldn't be logging into your root account other than performing emergency operations or doing any of those special tasks where you explicitly require root account access. What you should be doing instead is creating a user account. And a user account is just like kind of a normal account. You can still sign in with a username and an email and all that. And you can still do pretty much 99% of things that the root account can do, but you're not risking kind of losing access to your entire AWS account. So make sure you create a user account. Very, very easy to do. You just walk through a couple steps in the IAM section of the console. And you should be good to go. You should be using that root account for your day-to-day. Once you're done that, enable multi-factor authentication on both of those accounts, on your root account, definitely, and also on your user account. And the easiest way to do this, or kind of the way I do it, which I like to think is the easiest way, is you can use the Google Authenticator app on a Android or a iOS phone. And the way it works is whenever you log into your AWS account in the console, you have to also provide a security code that's going to pop up on your phone, and you just type that in and then you gain access. Obviously, most people know what MFA is for, but if you don't, this makes sure that if someone does gain access to your account or knows what the username and password are, they still have to have access to your phone as well in order to log in. Okay, so that's it for kind of account setup and all that kind of stuff from a security perspective. The other thing that you're going to want to do is set up your AWS CLI, which I previously touched on. So the AWS CLI, if you don't know, is the command line interface of AWS, and it's what you can use to access AWS from your terminal. You can use it to create resources, read the configuration, update resources, all that kind of stuff. Some people like to use the CLI religiously. Some people like to use the UI or the console. I'm a console kind of guy. For whatever reason, I like the visual element of using the console, but some people swear by using the CLI. And setting up the CLI is very, very straightforward. It just requires you to go to your IAM user, get a access key and a secret access key, and then type in a command in your terminal called AWS configure. It asks you a bunch of questions. You put in your access and your secret access keys, and you're pretty much good to go. Another reason why this is important is because other AWS services such as AWS Amplify and CDK require you to have your AWS CLI set up and configured with a certain set of permissions. So if you want to use those services or any other ones, you may need to have your CLI set up. So it's important to just do it from the get-go and then forget about it. Okay, that is it for my first 3 tips. Now, my next 2 tips are in the domain of avoiding surprise bills. And for whatever reason, so many people have been getting hit by this recently. I don't know if there's like some advanced phishing attacks that are going on or whatever, but definitely something that you want to be aware of and you want to mitigate against. So my tip here, the first tip in this domain, is to enable billing alert notifications. And this feature allows you to get email updates whenever your dollar spend exceeds a certain dollar threshold for the current month. So if you're someone that's, a brand new account, you don't want to spend anything on AWS, you can set this to be like $1 or 50 cents or whatever. This way you'll get a notification immediately if you're ever spending anything on AWS. Now, if you're someone like me that typically spends, somewhere between $50 and $100 a month, depending on the month, I'll set this a little bit higher, maybe to $75 or so, and I'll have a separate alert, maybe at $125. So if I hit that second alert, something is definitely wrong, and I'm probably going to want to check out my account to make sure, something isn't left on or, something fishy isn't happening on the account itself. So this protects you in 2 different areas. The first one, and this has bit me significantly in the past, is if you set up an AWS resource like an RDS database or maybe an EC2 instance or an EMR cluster, or it can be any number of things that you set up, and you just happen to forget about it and you forget to delete it. And what happens is if you forget that this thing is running and you leave it on for a couple days, it can very quickly add up. And the more powerful machine that you provision, the more that you're going to end up paying. So heaven forbid you forget to clean your resources up, or something happens and something is still running. So heaven forbid you forget to delete a resource or you forget to clean something up, your billing alert will hopefully notify you of that when you exceed a certain threshold, and you can come in and just delete that stuff manually. Now, the other major thing that this feature protects you against is someone getting access to your AWS account or your AWS credentials and, spawning up hundreds or thousands of EC2 instances. So as you can imagine, if someone does this and you don't have this enabled, or maybe you created an account and you forgot about it, you're not going to know until the end of the month and you get an email that says, hey, you owe like $3,000 or something like that. And then you're going to have a mini heart attack and have to figure out what to do about it. But if you have these alerts set up, like on the first day that someone does this and it starts exceeding that threshold, you'll get an email right away. You can contact support. And in my experience, they're much more lenient on you if you go through these motions of setting up the proper controls and the proper protocols to protect your AWS account. So hopefully that doesn't happen to you. But setting up these alerts is very, very easy. You just go to the billing section of the AWS console, set your dollar spend threshold, set up the email that you want to get the notification to, and you're pretty much good to go. So that's it for that tip. The other one is to enable the cost and usage widget on your AWS console homepage. So this one is kind of new, and it's because the AWS team, I want to say 6 months ago or so, they revamped the AWS console, the homepage of the console, to add this concept of widgets. And widgets allow you to customize what you see when you land on your AWS dashboard. So before, all you saw was like AWS services, the most common ones, and different categories of them and all that stuff. Now there's all these other things that you get access to immediately when you land on that console. So things like blog posts, things like tutorial walkthroughs, things like the AWS services, again, the most common ones at least, things like your favorite AWS services that you can bookmark so you get easy access to, and also this feature, which is the cost and usage reports. So this widget will basically tell you your top 5 AWS services in terms of the cost spent for the current month. So this is a very, very handy feature because if you're someone like me that's experimenting with AWS, you're creating stuff, or maybe you forget to clean up your work, or you use a service that's tied to using another AWS service that has cost implications with it, then this tool will show you your costs spent right in front of you when you land on the AWS console. Previously, you had to dig through the AWS billing dashboard. It was kind of annoying and hidden, but now it's right in front of your face. And so you can customize the widgets on the home page. And what I like to do is bring this widget right up, right in front, right when I log into the console. So it's the first thing I see. And this has already saved me, I want to say a couple $100. I've left some AWS CloudWatch logs around when I probably should have deleted them. There's a couple times where I created something and forgot to delete it or didn't didn't realize there was a cost associated with it. So I have a whole bunch of videos on most of these 5 tips here. I'll put them to the left and right in the description section. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.